All right, we should be live. Welcome back, people. It's Trader XO here once again with another crypto market review. If you can just give me a quick confirmation in the chat that you can hear me okay and see my screen. And we'll kick off today's review of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and some of the other charts. Please do give me a confirmation in the chat and then we'll crack on. All right, excellent. So just for sponsoring the weekly streams. And as always, anything said in today's video, it is not financial advice. Look into trading markets, what I'm seeing out there, and essentially for educational purposes. Proceed with regards to the private group that I should hope to be running. It will most likely start in February. For those of you who are asking how to join, where to sign up, I will have more details. Is almost completed, so that's been the main delay. The main reason for that is because I'd like to ensure that anybody who misses the videos and streams can catch up whenever they wish to do so. And like I mentioned, it is a free private group. I'm not asking anybody to pay me any money. I've never run a paid group or a paid service. It's just something that I'm doing for 4 weeks in partnership with Prime XBT and OK Exchange, where nearly all proceeds of any referral income will be given to charity. So I will have more information on that next week. So let's kick off the stream. Sound cutting off in and out? All right, okay. Is that... It's probably just me swinging on my chair. That's what it is. Yeah, is that better? Okay. Okay, so Bitcoin. High time frame. Now cutting. All right. Well, let's see how we get on. Just let me know if it's an issue. If it is, we'll try and figure something out with the stream, but hopefully it shouldn't be cutting anymore. Trend scanner, very quickly, retested the 12 weekly EMA. Okay, I did warn or forewarn about this when the EMAs were down here and price was oscillating around these levels. That don't be surprised if we see a retest of the 12 and the 25 weekly. Still fairly pleased with how the market is shaping at the moment, but like I said, until I see reasons to start shorting the market, I've primarily been playing the long side since the start of 2024, and that is my view of the market, that I'm continuing to look for longs, okay, which we discussed in detail last week, which played out very, very well, and I'll cover that and what my thoughts are going ahead into Friday and potentially early next week. The EMAs, I've no concern there. You can see in terms of the daily 1225, we lost the level, we consolidated into this demand zone. This was the level that we marked out. I believe there was a daily demand zone here. And we covered this in detail, that look, what you want to see is price coming into this demand zone, aggressive shorts opening up into this level, taking out all the stops, taking out any early longs, okay? Sellers aggressively shorting into a demand zone. Once they get trapped, watch for them to get trapped offside. They peak their position, longs pile in, chase up price. Essentially the perfect setup, okay? In terms of flow, profile, demand zone, this being a daily demand zone, and trading back above the yearly open level. That's essentially what we discussed. It was either the yearly open or it was either this demand zone. Looking at the momentum into the yearly open, I wasn't too impressed. The reaction off of it wasn't great. And it was just, I think I didn't execute on this, but what I was hoping for, and which it did inevitably play out, was for price to tap into this demand zone, which was a far better setup. Everything lined up in terms of Ethereum, Bitcoin, totals 2, total 3. So for me, having seen this and the flow on the lower time frames, that was the execution. So check out last week's video. We cover this scenario in significant detail, okay? But again, just looking at the macro trend scanner, just focusing on the higher time frame aspects. Again, lovely structure. We can see price reclaiming back above the bands, traded below, and now we're back above it for a second time. We've got the bull cross today. Looking at the stock RSI, again, something that I've advocated for and preached time and time again, that when you see the stock RSI coming into these lows, into a level of demand, you don't really want to be shorting this in this type of range bound environment. Is this a trend? No. Is it more of a range being formed? Absolutely it is. And what did we talk about on last week's stream? What did we specifically mention? Watch for the emotions coming into this level here. You are likely to see people talking about lower prices, unable to pull the trigger at this level. It's a range low into a demand zone. That's your local range high. Classic emotions being portrayed on the timeline into these lows. If you watched the stream from last week, we talked about this scenario. This is where you want to be thinking about looking for longs. Watch for the scenario, watch for shorts opening into this level, and that's essentially what happened. Price with the stock RSI at the lows, roll it forward. The daily stock RSI is now oscillating back towards the highs. Price is hovering at the mid of this entire range that we have currently displayed on the chart, okay? So again, from the daily perspective, things look okay. I'm not expecting a great deal. I still believe that price is likely to, well, for now, the way I'm looking at price is just to trade this range until we find acceptance above the range high with continuation. What I don't want to see from a continuation point of view is price trading back above the highs, it consolidates and it breaks back inside, okay? That for me would be a reason to de-risk either via selling some of my spots or hedging with the shorts, okay? Because all I'm doing is locking the gains from the swing lows and the range lows to the range highs. If I see acceptance a second time, then it's time for that continuation scenario. So again, just thinking very, very high time frame. But I will, like I said, go into further details on the lower time frames in the next 20 minutes or so. Okay, so is that clear? Daily stock RSI now oscillating to the highs. Any pullbacks into price, again, we'll mark out the levels later in the stream. What are those levels that I'm looking at? But in terms of the context, I think still continuation in terms of range bound, price action, very much rotational. Don't want to be playing price in the middle of no man's land. Essentially, avoid any chop. It's the extremities where I want to do my business. What was your average buy? Did you wait for the 4-hour close and market? No, I didn't. I don't wait for candle closes. I watched the tape and the flow in real time and then ascertain, having price come into this level very aggressively. If you look at this extensive sell-off into this demand zone, that was good enough for me. Seeing shorts opening up aggressively, unable to push price lower. I mentioned on the timeline 90 to 88k is the zone I wish to do business. I mentioned on last week's stream with the heat maps as well, looking for price. There's the white line that I left. Looking for price to come in, tap into this demand zone where the bids were resting between that 90 to 88k level, possibly 87, but this was good enough for me to start being aggressive with a clear invalidation below this level here, around about 85, 86s. Once I saw price coming into here, shorts aggressively opening up, unable to push price. We got the delta unwind, shorts puking their position, long starting to pile in, and momentum takes it higher, okay? That's the scenario we discussed. Any questions around that? We even went into detail, if you remember, on last week's stream, how you can define a range on a given demand zone. So in terms of the trade execution that I covered, if this was our range high, this is our demand zone here that I'm just going to mark out. This is the lower bound of the demand zone. This is the zone that I wanted to see hold. We defined the mid-level of this demand zone. And that's another reason as to why I took the trade. You can see price tagged the demand zone. For me, the invalidation would have been trading below either the range low or wicking below the mid, closing back above, pushing back above, start scaling into my longs, chasing price higher. Okay, so again, we talked about the execution scenario, how to execute in this environment. Perhaps you don't use all an execution point from the high of the range where price comes back in and holds the level. Watching price come into the early open and seeing this reaction wasn't good enough for me. But thankfully, at the same time, I was just willing to wait. My backup, I can trade alts. If Bitcoin comes in and takes out all these lows, great. And the one thing that I wanted to see, if you go out onto the higher time frame, now what did I talk about specifically when it came to the monthly chart? We talked specifically, and again, I talked about this on the timeline, that I want to see price come in and take out the December low. That again was another reason, taking out the December low, getting or seeing price trade back above December's low would have been another confluential factor and a reason for a trigger as well. Okay, so we marked out December lows, we took out December lows, quickly traded back above that particular level. That was another reason for confluence, for continuation higher. Does it keep cutting? I'm not sure why it keeps cutting. Or am I just hitting the... Is the mic too close? Is that... Just let me know if that is better. Jeez. It's back now, yeah? It cuts out. Yeah, I'm not too sure. It might be a loose cable. Or it might just be something else. I'm not too sure what it is, to be honest with you. Alright, okay. Maybe I probably... need to keep the mic. It's probably the position of the mic. I've moved my desk around. All right, okay. So, don't you just hate it when shit like this happens? Is that better? Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Let me know if you can hear me okay and it's not cutting out, and we'll continue with the stream. It shouldn't be a connection issue. It should not be a connection issue at all. All right, we'll just have a short stream then. But overall, my expectation now moving forward in terms of price action is, in terms of defining the range, using this as a range high, okay? Using this as the range lows that we defined. If you go to the 4-hour chart, where has the majority of price traded? It's this level here. We talked about this as well on last week's stream, that if we see the sweep of the lows, you want to see price gravitate back towards this mid-level here. This now, for me, if you look at this structure on price, okay, this as the mid-range, range low, mid-range, deviation above it, back into that mid-level. So this is a very key pivotal level again. key pivotal level, as far as I'm concerned. Now, mapping out a normal range here, if this is the mid, this is the high, this is the range low, then in this instance, for me, not only is a possible pullback into the range quarter a fairly decent level to bid, but I'm looking for price to hold this structure here. Okay, so any retest now into this level with a pullback may take out these lows, but essentially you want to see this zone here hold. If we should get that set up, price pushes back away, this is going to be another trigger to go long, in my opinion. Continuation higher, taking out these highs, okay? So into this level here as the next range quarter is what I would be looking for personally. For now, I've scaled off some of my longs that I initially had at this mid-level, okay? I've started taking some profits. I've kept 50% of the position on. Any pullbacks now, I will be looking to run a second position from that 95, 96K level. Okay, that's the zone that I'm looking for if we get a pullback. So 96, 97, 96, 95. Somewhere in there is where I'm looking to trade price going forward. Now, the triggers are fairly, you know, just for the sake of simplicity, it's going to be one of two or one of three actions. This is the zone where I want to do my business. Trigger number one would be pull back into here, consolidate. Do we get the move away? If so, fine, not bad. Happy to chase it. Stop just below this low. If price does push back into lower down, what you then want to see is price trade these lows here, back above, clear invalidation, another opportunity to long price into these highs over here. Okay, is that clear? So they're essentially the two zones that I'm looking for. And if the pullback is shallow, then I suspect we get a fairly aggressive move back towards the range highs. After that, I'm not going to say, you know, Bitcoin's going to go to 130, 140, 150K. All I'm going to say is at this point number one, give me the pullback, consolidation, continuation higher. We're looking for that shift in market structure. You have a high, a low, lower high, lower low, higher high in this context. But like I said, when you're looking at market structure within a range, it's often very, very choppy. Where market structure is clean is in a trend. But in terms of locality, this is another lower low. People will say, well, this is another lower high. This could be bearish. I disagree. When you have price trading within a range, it's very easy to get lost in the context of market structure. Just as many people got lost in the context of price structure here, calling for lower lows, lower highs, lower low, lower high. This is bearish. We're going to break down to 40K, 30K. Okay, but if you look at this overall, it was just a range-bound environment. It was not a trending environment. So once again, we find ourselves in that rotational range-bound or range being developed environment where market structure can be very, very noisy. But ultimately, having said that, what I am looking for is, in the context of price recency, is looking for a higher low in terms of this leg here. Okay, I don't care about this being a high and this being a lower low. I'm focusing on this aspect, this leg of price. I want to see a base or a pullback into this level. Is it going to be deep into 95s? Trigger to go long at 95s. Aggressive stop below here. It may stop me out. Fine, gets back inside. That's another reason. Strike two or execution, trade execution number two, looking for continuation higher into that 103, 104, 105 level. Okay, and then we may get a shallow pullback and then continuation higher into 108s. But we're a long way off this. This is all I'm focused on right now. I'm not just going to come here and draw an arrow and say, look, we could pull back here and go all the way up here. I'd rather just tell you that, look, in terms of execution, in terms of trading, this is the zone that if I was to take a long, this is the area that I'm looking for. I want to see price respect the structure of this being the swing low, this being the swing high, this being the mid of this leg to this leg, hold here, continuation long, looking for price to trade out. That's all I'm looking for. Now, looking at the books, futures are fairly stacked all the way down to 96. If you look at Binance Spot, okay, so maybe 95, 96. Or group it by 1,000. So somewhere in there, that 96, 95 level, I think could be a decent level if we drop into this zone here. That's what I would like to see, okay? Price coming into this level, holds. It may deviate the lows, but gets back within this local demand zone. That's the base. That is what I'd want to see for continuation. To get into a long, stop out the lows, show me continuation high. If we see failure and a rejection and it breaks below, I have to get out the trade with the view that we'll probably get a deeper retrace somewhere closer to what we've had at that 90k level. Okay, that's the downside risk that I have to be aware of. No, what I'm saying is I've taken 50% profit with a tight stop. But don't worry about what I'm doing. Just worry about where you're looking to execute and why. Okay, so in terms of what I've done, obviously I've longed here. I've taken 50% here. If we start breaking down, I'll probably scale out the remainder or hedge short, just to lock in the gains with the view that I'll get to re-long this level here. And I'm not talking about trading Bitcoin from an investment perspective. This is me just trading Bitcoin purely as a trader. If you want investment advice or if you want me to tell you that Bitcoin is going to go to 200,000 in the year 2040, then this isn't the channel for you. You know, long-term investing, just put your Bitcoin into cold storage and come back in 20 years' time. It'll probably be at 2, 3, 4x than what it currently is if it goes to plan. So is that clear in terms of the long? Quite a fair few scribbles. But you get the gist of the idea, okay? So you got the 0.5 at 94.8. So again, into a level of support, somewhere in here is where I want to see price trade, okay? Any questions? Anybody with any questions of what I've just covered in terms of the trade setup that I'm looking for? I think we may get it next week. Who knows? Okay, so zooming out, we have our... I should have covered this at the start. I guess I was just deterred by the sound not working correctly. But the one thing I want to mention here is, again, looking at the charts, purely price action. When you look at the weekly chart, and we've covered this on previous streams many, many times, what do you see here in terms of a trade setup? Look at the number of wicks. Price trades into that 90k level, closes up higher. And again, and again. So really, we've not had any weekly closes. below 93.6. And that for me is probably going to be one of the key levels to watch. That yearly open, 93.6, okay? So this is the range that I'm looking to trade from December low to December's high. We're trading above the high of November. We're clearly below the high of December, but we are above the low of December. So we're in almost the middle of this range here. If you take December's low to December's high, again, the 0.05 is acting as a level of resistance. So any pullbacks now into, again, another way of adding confluence into this level of 96, into this, if you want to call it a monthly block, 96 to 93, 94, but any pullbacks into here is essentially where I'd be considering a long, looking for price to gravitate back towards the range highs in December. Don't you think a deeper sell-off could be a better... yeah, I mean, like I said, the deeper price pulls back, the better the setup often is for me, for my system anyway. What I don't like is a shallow pullback. So say, for example, if we are looking at this on a 4-hour chart and assume this is a 4-hour demand zone, the type of setup that I hate is where price just comes into here and then pushes away, okay? It's not bad. What I prefer, and again, just going down to the 1-hour chart, I prefer something like this, where price actually trades below the demand zone, and it's very, very short-lived, such that price comes into this zone, takes out all these lows here, maybe just holds short of taking this out. It probably doesn't run it, it just stops short of it, then gets back inside that 4-hour demand zone. That, for me, is a much better setup, looking for price to go back towards these highs here, okay? That is what I prefer from a trade setup point of view. Now, how I normally go about this is that if I feel that the flow on the tape, that this is holding up very well, I'll take a stab at it, knowing that if I get stopped out, that's fine. I'm looking for a second executable trade back above the demand zone to go again, okay? Like I said, I have a 3-strike rule when it comes to trade execution, but it's knowing where I want to do business, why and how, and what I need to see. Yeah, just people, you know, anybody who's longed or caught the longs, they're going to get essentially shaken out. And anybody who's short of these highs or hedged is probably going to look to unwind their hedges around about this level if it happens, okay? Or down here into that key SR level. And if it rolls over, then, you know, that's just the nature. I'm not here to predict what's going to happen. I'm just telling you where I'm looking to trade. I'm not going to draw any, well, it's where I want to do my business, where I'm looking to trade, where I'm looking to take profit, why. If price is going to pull back lower down, then yes, I probably will take more profit in the view that I get to long this level again, okay? It's not the end of the world. There's always numerous ways to get into a trade. But essentially for me, single line, this is a key level. That is one level that I'm looking at in terms of zone, in terms of zones that I'm looking to trade at the highs, at the mids, and at this key demand zone here, or where price has been holding up as support, okay? Swing failed, trade back to the mid. Into the mid, take some profit, looking for a pullback into the range quarter at 90, quarter of this range, okay, or the mid of this range here, that's coming in at 95. So somewhere in there is where I want to do my business. If your trade setups are range focused, how do you tend to approach trends and shifts? For me, that's fairly clear. If for example, I'll cover that in a future stream, but if you watch my streams when we position for Bitcoin over here, when you've been going sideways in a range-bound environment such as this, and price is unable to break lower, and I've talked about this before, essentially the tail side of a range is where I feel the conviction is there then to hold on to a trending environment looking for price to go higher. Whereas if you see the beginnings of a range being formed such as this, then I'm looking for rotational plays back and forth, okay? Unless we come back down here and then go higher, then I'd say, yep, I'm definitely looking to hold this one for a longer swing or a longer trade high. But for now, in all honesty, I'm just looking to play from one zone to the next purely as a trader. This isn't related to spot or my spot holdings, purely from a trading perspective, all right? I'm still long on my spot from 54.55. I still haven't taken profit, but I am also long on my perps account into here, taking 50%, any pullbacks, continuation long on a separate account. That's all. Now I want to be objective. It's all well and good getting carried away with saying Bitcoin's going to go to 150 by the end of the year. Bitcoin's going to go to 180 by the end of the year. What if it doesn't? What if it doesn't? What do you then do? So it's always good to have a scenario in the back of your mind that what are the risks to the downside? Maybe Bitcoin tops in Q1 and we get a deep correction in Q2 and Q3. And maybe then we get continuation in Q4, right? You have to be open-minded to question your thesis to the upside and also be aware of the adverse risk scenarios to the downside and what that means for your portfolio. So I'm just going to leave you with this for food for thought. Let's just assume that this is our range low, right? Now, this isn't actionable content. This is just me thinking one or two steps ahead. Quite often, you only need to be one step ahead where you're looking to do business and why. What are the 2-3 scenarios as to where you wish to execute? What if there isn't a deeper pullback here? What if this is the mid-range and this holds as the mid-range and we see continuation higher? If price is likely to hold here and it starts pushing away, I'm not going to chase this from a long perspective. I'd much rather see price push up, then come back down, then reclaim back above. That's a much better long scenario that I'd like to trade. So in this instance, what I've mapped out is, all right, what if we don't get the pullback into 95, 96? What am I then looking to do? Okay, so if we do start pushing away tomorrow or Saturday or early next week, and then we get the deeper pullback, that's fine. This zone is still valid. But what will give me weight to believe that we're going to go higher into the range highs is fine. I'll happily bid this zone here. We push higher, we push lower. It's a higher low. It's a higher high locally. It's a higher low locally into a demand zone, looking for continuation higher. Long this, stop at the lows, reclaim the mid again. Look at how many times it's been tested. Okay, then I suspect we fill in most of this inefficiency and potentially trade the highs, and then we'll see what happens. What did the Simpsons predict? The market's going to go to shit in 2025. Which I think it could. I really do think it could. You know, and I'm going to just talk about that scenario on today's stream. Now, I'm not really a Wyckoff fanatic. I don't really follow Wyckoff analysis to how it should be. I'm more into price structures, if I'm completely honest. But I just want to put a scenario into your head that I think it's worth thinking about. And it isn't going to happen overnight. It could happen over the coming months. But it's always asking yourself, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong on the long side? Then what? Now with Wyckoff, you should use volume profile. Again, like I said, I'm not really somebody who uses volume profile. But again, as a trader or as somebody who likes, as aspiring traders or investors, we should be cognizant of downside risk. So the question I'm asking myself is, what if this is something like this? Let me just map out the annotations. Sorry, it's a very slow stream today. I've been up all day, but it is what it is. So, like I said, I'm not really a Wyckoff fan, but going on the daily, do you see what could be potentially developing here? And I say could be potentially. It's not set in stone. This isn't me being bearish. This is me now understanding that, look, we've had a fairly aggressive bull market since the lows of 2022. It's been a fairly appalling market. What I'm questioning is, at which point do I really not need to start thinking about, shit, what's the downside scenario? And what the fuck am I going to do about it if that scenario starts playing out? So if that's the case, then are we likely to see an upthrust in phase B? Are we likely to see just a shallow pullback, a push higher, another shallow pullback, push higher, consolidation, and it breaks back inside? What do we do in that scenario? Ignore phase C. I'm just talking about phases A to B. What if PSY, BC, AR, sorry, AR is down here. Secondary test is over here, right? And then we got the show of weakness in phase B on low volume. And we get an aggressive rally, shallow pullback. Second drive, shallow pullback. Third drive, taking out these highs into 110. What if? And then we get back inside. Hence why I'm not going to say to you guys, I think we're going to go back to all-time highs and even higher to 120, 130 in the next 4 or 5 weeks. What I'm saying is, if I see this scenario, I'm going to be taking profit, or at least I'm going to be hedging, being cognizant that this could be a failed breakout into a heavy level of supply, at least back in towards the mid-range. Where I'm wrong is if this breaks out of the range high, trades into the underside of resistance, shorts start piling in, they get squeezed the fuck out, then we see trend continuation higher. So I'm open to both scenarios. But what I'm trying to prepare you for is, look, we're not guaranteed a trend in market higher to 150, 160, 180. What if? Okay, that's all I'm asking. What if? And I don't know the answer. And this may not even happen. What if price breaks below here and it breaks down? What are you going to do about this scenario? For me, it's very simple. Break below here. I have to think about taking profits on my spot until I see strength back in the market again. And then I'll play back towards the range highs. But this is the zone that I feel like you really have to start paying attention to over the coming weeks. I'm not even looking at, like I said, don't even look at phase C, D, because right now I'm just looking at, okay, what's happening here? Respective of price, it could be a range bound environment. we could see further rotations. So I'm just going to play the range until I see a clear conviction of a break out of range and we go significantly higher to that 120, 130 level that I'm looking for, okay? And if that happens, then maybe, just maybe, we get this scenario here. Kind of like a 3 drives into 130, 120, 130. Into February, March. What if we get this? Okay, what if this is the show of weakness in phase B? We get the UT, we get the pullback, and then we go for a third drive higher into 125, 130s, which is the up thrust after distribution, and then we get a very fast leg back down. So again, this isn't about us turning bearish. I'm just telling you, look, I'm looking for longs. I've been looking for longs for the best part of all of 2024. I've been I have to pay attention or give some weight to the probability that at some point I'm going to have to shift and think about taking profits. And this isn't going to happen overnight either. It could take several weeks. It could take several months. I could be wrong about this. Well, not wrong in an essence, but it's about, well, what do I need to see to make me switch my bias? And the key to being a good trader is being fluid. Don't marry your bias. Understand what price is doing. Look at the flow. Look at the context. Don't say to yourself, I think Bitcoin's going to go to 200K by the end of September, because I think you're opening yourself up to being emotionally biased. And equally, the same could be said for those who called for 40K, 30K, when Bitcoin was ranging all the way through last March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and then we finally got the breakout in October, right? So just be open to understanding the extremes of a range, because we are in a range-bound environment. So I just really wanted to touch upon this topic, because I don't really see many people talking about the fact that, all right, what if this is a failed breakout? Then what do we do? Okay. At that point, I have to respect price. I'll take some profit. I'll head short. But like I said, I'm probably the worst person to come to when it comes to talking about Wyckoff. I don't really pay attention. It's more about the structure. And really, when you think about it, when you think about the essence of Wyckoff principles, it's just a range. Range low, extremity, range high, extremity. Trap, trap, fade, fade. Okay? Shorts puke, late longs puke, back down again. Reversion trade, okay? That's all I'm looking to trade. So Wyckoff or no Wyckoff doesn't make a difference to me. I know what I need to see or what I'm looking for at these key levels to get into a trade, or to risk off, or to short. All right? Does that help as to how I'm thinking about price and why I'm just trying to be very, very objective? I'm not going to, like I said, push opium towards you guys. I'm not even going to doom post and say, look, I think this is the top, which many people keep calling the top, and then saying, yeah, we think Bitcoin's going to go to 70K. All right, but how is that actionable? What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to sell my Bitcoin all of a sudden? Am I supposed to sell it down here and open shorts right at the lows? No, this is a tradable range. Until I see price give me a reason to either take profit at the highs because we break back inside, or we break below the range low, I'll take profit on my spot. And when it comes to trading, that's fine. That's a separate account altogether. So really, there's so many ways that I can slice and dice this. Another way is that, all right, there's our range high. Here's my pivotal range low, or where price may come in. Why am I even thinking about price below here when we clearly have a daily demand zone at this level? We haven't had a weekly close below 93.x. So I'm not concerned about this scenario yet. I'm looking at what is price going to do if it trades up here. That's what I'm thinking about. What am I going to do if price trades into this demand zone looking at the wicks? That's the mindset that I've got in terms of just taking it one day, 1 week at a time. Not telling you, oh, guys, I think the top's going to be in Q3 or Q4, or I think we could go to 180,000 in 2026. It's irrelevant. It doesn't tell you anything. All right, that's it. That's my not a rant, but seriously, it's one of my key strengths. I feel over the years is that I have this ability to recognize risk very early on, and when I recognize risk, I get the fuck out of the market, and only then do I think about shorting. All right, I don't think to myself, "Oh yeah, I want to be a hero. I can't wait to short the market." I'm looking at the charts. I'm questioning myself. XO, where am I wrong? Where am I wrong? What do I need to see to get out of the market? What's my concerns? Which are the levels? What's the context? What's the macro telling me? That's what I need to see, okay? And sometimes I'm wrong. I've made mistakes. I'll continue making mistakes. But I know exactly where I want to action my trades, okay? I can have a loosely held opinion. I can say that, yeah, I think Bitcoin could go to 130, but it doesn't. Doesn't mean I'm going to do nothing about it. If I see a reversal, I could have said, yeah, I think Bitcoin's going to go to, imagine price trades 110. I think, yeah, I think it could go to 130, but it doesn't. Just because I have an opinion doesn't mean that I won't act if this fails and it breaks back inside. I'll flip bias and say, right, I'm trading it back to the range lows. Okay. So always think about risk. And again, when I look at this move, just zooming out in the higher time frame, what do you do in this scenario where, all right, you know, if we get a consolidation, final thrust up into that 125, and it gets back inside, then this is going to be the exit point, or this is going to be the exit point, or we don't even get any of that. It's not as bullish as this. Then what do you do? Then it's a case of, all right, fine, maybe we just get this back inside, underside retest. Then what do you do? Okay, so I'm just trying to show you points of invalidation, points where you may have to switch context, points of what to observe on the chart. So that should you get a deviation, underside rejection, trades back to the lows, then you're in real risk of this inefficiency being filled in. When that happens, is this actionable? No, it's not. It's thinking about scenarios ahead of time which aren't currently in play, but knowing what to look for, looking for danger, looking for downside risk to get out of the markets. Cash into strength, sell into strength. You really don't want to be selling when everybody's looking for the exit door. When you see these pumps on altcoins, okay, it's been very, very difficult. You've got to be thinking about yourself, well, I need to be taking profits into strength. Otherwise, you're just going to round trip your bag. And that's being honest. I don't know what more to say to you. I'm not going to say to you, hold your altcoin because alt season's coming. I don't know if alt season's coming. It could do, or it may not. But all I will say is that when you see price rallying, you've got to pay yourself at least something, okay? Because there's nothing worse than not paying yourself and then just watching your profits round trip back to your entry. You spent 3 months holding that spot position and you didn't even take 5%, 10%, 20% off. Then what's the point, you know? The only way you're going to make money is by taking profit. If you think holding and holding and holding is going to, you know, other than Bitcoin, if you're a long-term holder, fine, I get it. But I think when it comes to altcoins, you've got to be real. You've got to be objective. Holding altcoins for the next 10 years isn't going to give you what Bitcoin will. So I really wanted to touch upon that because I think like we're heading into, you know, February. I'm looking for signs of potential reasons of invalidation. I'm also looking for signs of where can I continue being risk on? Okay, where can I continue remaining aggressive in the market, and at what point do I turn defensive in the market? I feel as though it's very, very split on crypto Twitter. We see some people talking about being defensive. We see some people talking about being very aggressive and continuation higher. I'm in neither camp. It doesn't matter to me whether I'm defensive or aggressive. All I know is I'm trading these extremes, and I'm looking for risk, looking for risky scenarios or reasons to see this failed breakout come back inside. All right. So just being objective about everything, really. Now, in relation to that, let's go back to the heat maps, because when you look at price, what the fuck is all this here? That's a fairly decent stack of supply there. So generally, again, unless we can eat through all of this, I'll put my hands up and say, yeah, we're going much, much higher. But if these asks are legitimate and they're absorbing price as price rallies into these asks, and price is starting to look exhaustive, and these asks are absorbing that into that 110k level, what do I then do? Okay, so it's just being aware of the possibility that we've got a shit ton of asks all the way to 110, 115. The asks are fairly stacked compared to the bid side. But what if these get pulled? Okay, so really you want to see real-time price trading into these levels and observing whether these asks get pulled or whether they get filled and the volume spikes are high and we see some form of rejection or a spike up into this level. Price then potentially, where's the pen on here? Price potentially trades around this zone and then it breaks back inside again, okay? I'm getting out the trade. But just looking at the asks on Binance again, when you look at, I mean, that's the spot market. So again, when you look at the perps market, what do we have on this side? Again, there's a fair decent amount of supply currently where we're at. Yeah, I think we might just get a pullback looking at this, unless we can just blast through this and late longs pile in higher and then they puke and price pulls back. So it's either pullback over the coming days or we get one more push higher, then we might get a deeper retrace. But again, I like that 95, 96k level for a possible trade setup, okay? But I hope that helps. I hope it helps you guys understand how I think about markets and what are possible risk on, risk off scenarios. And again, you've got to be aware and question your thesis. If you're bullish, what are you looking for reasons to be invalidated? If you're bearish, what are the reasons you're looking for to be invalidated, especially if you were bearish at these lows here, calling for 70k, low 80s, 75s, but price is pushing higher now. What have you learned from that? When it comes to shorting, again, I'm not trying to make this a perma-bear stream. I'm just generally telling you how I trade price. One of my favorite shorting strategies is price. So price doing something like this. It rallies again, rallies again. What's this? What is that? 3 drives, right? And generally what you find is people get trapped on this one thinking it's a short because the RSI is printing a bear divergence, and you get this slow drift down, and then you get 1 or 2 fuck off candles to the upside. They all get squeezed out. Longs piling at the top. Then you've got a confirmed bearish divergence on the 3rd drive on a spike of volume, and then you get exhaustion, and then you get the move down. Okay, that's one of my favorite trading structures in terms of looking for shorts when I'm looking for distribution tops. Or, like I said, you risk thinking this is a swing fail, but when you get a slow drift and price comes back up and it's not rejecting off this underside range, it's likely to rip higher for a 3rd time, and then you will get the true move down. Okay, one of my favorite trading structures. So again, just something to look out for. You know, I'm not saying it's going to happen. We covered this on stream last week, that what I'm sharing with you, none of this shit is actionable right now, but what if we get that? Okay, Many people think, oh, this is the top in, price comes back down, it drifts, and it does this again. Everybody gets bullish. Yeah, Bitcoin's going to go to 150. Bang, straight down. Okay, that could happen. Now what do you do? The bullish scenario is something like we get... It's something like this, I'd imagine. If I was to think of a structure, again, this is just pure guesswork, predictive squiggles on the chart that are actionable. Maybe we'll get a pullback here, a rally, another pullback, pushes up higher, consolidates, goes up higher again. Maybe something like that could happen as well, okay? Where you get that rotational up, blow off the top, and then we get a pullback down, slow bleed into this level again. Then what? So again, none of this shit is actionable because this isn't what we see in the chart. I'm just trying to tell you how I think of structures, how I think ahead of time, what I'm looking for, possible risk-off scenarios, etc., etc. All right, that's all. Sorry if I'm boring the shit out of you, but there you go. It's good to think of these scenarios in the back of your mind. For me, it comes second nature now, especially when it comes to managing risks to the downside. But like I said, I'm long. I'm holding my spot long. Sorry to sound bearish. I'm holding my spot long. I've got a long on futures. I've taken 50% off here. If we get the pullback, I'll probably get stopped out, look to re-long to the range highs whilst holding my spot. Okay, so I'm either looking to sell my spot somewhere up here, or I'm wrong and we break down below this level. I'll have to sell my spot at that 85, 84K level. All right. And that's why I've stopped talking about, I think Bitcoin could go to 150. I think Bitcoin could go to 60K, 70K in the next 6 months. Doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's bullshit. Doesn't fucking matter. It's not actionable. Right, let's look at ETH. Again, if you watched the stream last week, you will know what I was looking for. I'm not really going to go into much detail. I specifically said this, that I'm looking for a base-like structure. So yes, I've got partial fills on my ETH. Any pullbacks now into this zone is what I'm looking for, okay? That's essentially what I'm looking for here. This base-like structure and then continuation higher. If we get a fourth test, 1, 2, 3, 4, I think we break higher into these highs here. That's all I'm looking for. If, big word, if below here, I'm wrong, I'll put my hands up and say, guys, that's what I was hoping for, and unfortunately, I don't have a crystal ball, and I have to take a loss on that trade setup. And that's it. That's all I can do. Just be honest, not tell you what you want to hear, just tell you that I'm wrong. And this is a trade setup. It's a valid trade setup. This was the level that we discussed on the previous week's stream, that I want to see price ideally take out these lows. With Bitcoin taking out the December lows, it's a great setup. So currently spot long on ETH, and I've got a long on futures as well. 1/3 filled on spot, 1/3 filled on futures. So again, if there is a pullback, which probably looks likely at this stage, can we see some base being built, and then at least the mid, and then the range quarter, and then the range highs? After that, we'll see what happens. All right. Trend line. Break this. Continuation higher is where I'd want to see. Trend line. Break below. I cut the position. I'm wrong. That's it. This is the key inflection point, key zone that I'm looking at. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I can look at the RSIs and whatnot and tell you, yeah, you know, look, look. At the end of the day, there's the level. That's all I want. There's my validation point. Everything else is secondary, just to add confluence. That's it. RSI is at 30, low 30s. Looking for a higher low. Again, when it comes to structures, if Bitcoin trades 96s, then I think on Ethereum, you've got to be thinking of a higher low into here. That's what I'd be thinking. Reclaim back above there. I'd be looking for a long into here. Then these highs into this range quarter and some as well. thin, efficient move above here, back to these highs. I think that's the kind of a double bottom structure, or on the higher time frame, you've got an inverted shoulder, inverted head, inverted shoulder being built, building a base. Has to hold. Breaking below here, I think so that's the downside risk, but I like the long scenario setup that we have ahead of us. Hopefully we see some price action, bullish price action heading into February. But like I said, you've got to be cognizant of the downside risks as well. Looking at the trend scanner, again, it's holding on to the 1225s into that demand zone, took out the lows, closed back above. Again, when we think about structures, this is the zone that I want to see hold. Any pullbacks into here, like I said, on the higher time frames, that's where I really don't want to see price going to. I don't want to see price going below this level, essentially. Okay, back into there, then we can talk about this stuff here. Okay, has to get back above there. Target this. I'll take profit. I'm not going to chart any altcoins because I think altcoins are very sensitive to Bitcoin. When Bitcoin rallies, altcoins rally. We can have a look at Total 2. Again, what did I talk about on Total 2 last week? I said specifically that when we were... All right, fine. Demand zone, okay. That I felt as though we're not quite ready to break out. I remember it being around here. I said that don't be surprised if you see one more pullback into this level. That's essentially what we got. This is now starting to look a bit better. Any shallow pullback, look for the breakout and target this high here. Okay, that's what I'd want to see. After that, we'll see what happens. Total 3 is very much the same. There's a gray zone that I marked out from the previous stream. It's holding. You look at the bands, it's holding. I'm not concerned just yet. The structure that I'm looking for here, if I'm really honest with you guys, and again, this is purely predictive, this is not actionable, and it's the same on Solana. I'm looking for something like this. That's what I'm looking for. And you know what? If we do get a rally, and then you get this, no comment. You don't even know what I'm going to say next, okay? It's fairly obvious. But with this, you will probably see some level of bearish divergence possibly occurring, okay? Just be wary of this scenario. Don't get too carried away. It's all well and good being joyful and merry for as long as we stay above this level, okay? If we trade above, great. If we get back inside, problem. And when you look at that, you think, this might slow bleed into this level again before another underside retest. And then what do you do? Is this the moment where you piss away all your profits because you failed to recognize this risk scenario and you didn't want to cash out because you think it's going to go much higher, but instead it does this and then this and then this, and before you know it, you'll be on Confessions reporting the fact that you've round tripped everything for the last cycle and you don't have it in you anymore to trade or invest, or this market fucking sucks. So pay yourself on these thrusts on the way up, okay? Don't pay yourself down here for a loss. You want to be selling or taking some profits into strength. That's what I'll be looking to do as well. All right. Solana, I think Solana is, I'm hoping it plays out the scenario that I talked about several weeks ago. Again, When you look at Solana across the line, I think it's holding fairly well. We are at this key pivotal zone that I've talked about previously. This is the level that I want to see hold. Trend line, trend line, trend line, rally. Do you remember this structure that I've shared with you guys? That when you see price do something like this, then it takes off and it slowly bleeds back down, and you get this rounded bottom, and you have almost a very clean trend, a reversion back to that trend. Okay, I've shared this with you guys. In bullish markets, this is the structure that you want to start looking to long, and what you're looking for is another continuation higher, okay? And then you might start seeing some bearish divergences. That is that same scenario, okay? You have a level of compression, 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 expansion, bleed down. Everybody's trying to long this, long this, long this. Big sell-off, back to the mean reversion of the trend line. That's this scenario that I'm looking for. For as long as this holds, I'm looking for continuation higher, possibly looking to at least get back above here. And again, if you're in Solana and you see this, you're going to be very euphoric. The minute you see this, just be aware of that scenario. If it goes higher, great, everybody wins, okay? Whoever's got Solana, you carry on winning. Solana shitters run higher, great. But this is what you want to watch for, getting back inside, okay? That's where you've got to be slightly cautious, because then you got to think, right, we're back inside now. This previous all-time high, there's the next level of range. Breaking inside here means we're likely to gravitate back towards this. And is this then the shift of the market in Q2, Q3, where we get a lower high and another lower low, and we trade back into this range here? And then what do we do? Do we bounce and go higher into Q4, or do we break down and that's it? Okay? All guesswork, all predictive. None of this is actionable right now, but I'm telling you and showing you ways to think about risk and validation levels, structural shifts that if you see price rallying higher, but you see this and getting back inside, and you don't recognize what's happening in front of you, then you've got bigger problems ahead in terms of pissing away any gains that you've had. All right. So this is one that we discussed trading. I saw somebody mention J curves. This is kind of a J curve, very bullish down here, bullish, 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 bullish. Started to be conservative and I've actually started taking profit on UNA. I'm not going to deny the fact. I got stopped out on some profits. I was chatting to Crypto ISO, I think a few days ago before this sell-off happened. We both agreed that we think 70 to 75s is a good level to buy. What the reaction is now, I'm not too sure. Again, I'm hopeful that we get another push higher, but break below here, then we've got problems. Okay, so somewhere in this zone, we want to see price hold for continuation higher into these highs, potentially this high here. Okay, well, in all honesty. ETH BTC, yep, fine, valid. Looks decent to me. It's at the lows, but you know, I did say, look, we are into a demand zone. When this fucker wakes up, I've got no idea. And whether it does, I've got no idea. But I'm hopeful it does, because 2-3 weeks of bullish price action on ETH will serve alts very, very well. And if it doesn't, well, fuck it. It's just been a shit cycle then. It's been an absolute shitcoin meme cycle where you're seeing micro caps become 100 million market caps. People are pulling 50x's left, right, and center. It's been a shit market otherwise for altcoins, okay? That's all there is to it, really. But I'm hopeful, still hopeful that this fucker wakes up and just bounces at least. Give me 2-3 weeks of bullish price action, and then hopefully we get some green across the board, but I'm not holding my breath, if I'm honest with you. What is the reasons alts such as ETH and Sol don't make exceptional highs like previous cycles. You mean dilution of liquidity, or I think it's a combination of. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but if you just look at the current narrative, look how many shitcoins have come into the space over the last 2 years. Everybody's chasing quick wins. Look at the rotational aspects of shitcoins, meme coins. Look at WIF. Only 2 months ago, up here, people were talking about WIF's going to go to $10. All the way up there. 4 or 5 weeks later, WIF is on it's actually at a decent level, if I'm honest with you, but it's on its arse at these range lows. Now, who had this in their setup? The fact that we swing fail these highs, or we got close to it, and it's all the way back down to the range lows. When you look at this over the last year, March 2024, November 2024, we're back at the range lows again. So essentially it's been a trader's market, hasn't it? From $1.50 through to nearly $5. And that's just the nature of the game. And that's why it's a dangerous game to say, yep, this is going to go to $10. You know, pretty confident with it. Is it? Well, why isn't it there now? It could do in the future, right? But that's not good to me. Right now, all I'm thinking is, yeah, it's not a bad level, but could I get a trade on WIF from, say, hypothetically, from a pullback from this zone here? Give me that. Back above this SR level. Stop under here. Long. First target. Okay. Mid-range of this. And then the range high is at $3. So from 150, 160 through to $3, 100%, whatever you want to call it, 4R, 5R. But really, when you zoom out, you're just looking to take price from the range low to the local mid-range, or the range quarter to the mid-range. That's all I'd be looking for. I'm not going to, again, like I said, come out with silly targets and say WIF could go to $10 and it does nothing for the next 6 months. All right. Wrap it up here. That's my views of the market, what I'm looking for, trading scenarios, trading setups, plans ahead for the next several days. Food for thought, plenty of food for thought, right? I'm just hopeful we see a rally into February or mid-Feb. Please just give us 4 or 5 weeks of green on altcoins. That's all I'm looking for. And that's all I want. 4 to 5 weeks of altcoins, and we're good to go. Bitcoin dominance, yeah, it's just not really doing a great deal. Was really hopeful that this would start rolling over. If you take the high of this, the low of this, at least come into this level here, I'd be happy with that. I really would be, but like I said, thank you very much for tuning in. Sorry if I've bored the shit out of you. Thank you for staying with me for the best part of an hour and 10 minutes. I hope you found this very educational. Like I said, trade setups is my primary focus. I touched which aren't actionable. It's just, like I said, food for thought in terms of looking for contextual shifts over the next several weeks. If we get rallies higher, how are you looking to take profit? How are you looking for continuation higher? And we'll catch you next week at some point. God bless. Wishing you all a fabulous Friday and a blessed weekend, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Good luck.